The end and the death came and it went. A very nice end to the Horus Heresy, seeing the Emperor's dream fall. But you see, there's one problem in it that I myself find to be pretty big, and that is the death of Loken. Now, Loken is an important character. I don't know anybody that doesn't like Loken, in fact. And his death comes out of the blue. Out of nothing. It just happens. And the reason for this is pretty much explained by Erebus, and later on, or before I guess, Ahriman a little, is the fact that demons are created and time isn't linear in the warp as it is in real life. And because of that, Loken's death creates Samus in the past. I don't really agree with that, and that's mainly because if time isn't linear, then time doesn't really matter that much. Samus existed in the past, he appears in the first Horus Heresy book, he gets defeated, and we move on from there. The important aspect here is that we move on from there. He appears again at certain spots, while Loken is still alive. Of course, time not being linear in the warp means that can happen. Samus and Loken can exist at the same time without there being a paradox or anything happening there. Yet Samus is there, with Loken alive. And I don't really like the idea of seeing Loken die just so this annoying character that I don't think anybody really likes can continue existing to just haunt us. But I think there's a different reason why Erebus killed Loken, besides the fact that he's Erebus and he would do that just to spite us. Now, I think Erebus killed Loken for one simple reason. When Abaddon and his goons find Loken, Abaddon is pretty jaded by the war at this point, and he's not really into it. That's why he's friendly with Loken, and he wants to let Loken live and leave. That's an important aspect. He even wants Loken to join him, which Loken refuses. And it doesn't matter to Abaddon. He will not kill another brother. And that's important. Because Loken promises Abaddon that he would be at his heels, hunting him, just so he can turn back. And that's an interesting thing. You see, Abaddon's more human at this point in the story, and Loken really is trying to pull his emotional heartstrings. And Erebus kills him for the justification we said, so demons can live and so on. But here's the thing. Loken is a pretty important character. He is a person that survived for so long despite all odds, even better than Garo did. So we must understand that there's something at play here. Well, if we consider the other part of the end and the death, the part where Horus fights the Emperor and Loken tries to convince him to give in his power, we have to understand something pretty interesting. Now, that wasn't technically Loken, but Horus was willing to give up his power. He was willing to give up his power because his son knew how to push the right strings, the right buttons. Now, Abaddon is more down to earth than Horus was then, and because of that, you can show him the truth easily, and he might be more open to it than Horus was. And because of that, Loken represents a giant problem for Erebus and Lorgar, especially Lorgar, who planned Abaddon to be the champion of chaos, to be that pawn in case Horus doesn't make it. But of course, Lorgar also planned to dethrone Horus and take his place. From a narrative standpoint, I think this helps the story in a much better way. To have the death of Loken be a symbol to there being no return for Abaddon as the champion of chaos. Fight as he might, do what he can, he will never be able to go back there. There is no anchor to bring him back. The death of Sigismund also doesn't help, but seeing how Horus died smiling, Sigismund's final words to Abaddon aren't that impactful anymore. But that's a different story we might get into at some point. What I say is, this helps with Abaddon's narrative. And hey, that's pretty good. I can get the death of Loken in this situation. From a lore standpoint, you can't really do much with Loken. He refused to be a great knight. He can't become a chapter master of the second founding because at most we only know like 4 of them that don't really have a known chapter master, and they're pretty unimportant chapters at that. So you can't really do much with him from a lore standpoint. You could erase him from history, much like Leto apparently. But that wouldn't be fitting for Loken. Yet, by doing this, by Erebus' real motives being trying to take Abaddon away from the only thing that could turn him back, then the whole galaxy is doomed at the hands of the Despoiler. Abaddon himself is doomed to try and fight chaos. Using Samus as this Luciferian character for humanity is pretty interesting, and I can understand the points where that might be going to. But that doesn't work when we have Drakinen, the demon in the sword that Abaddon wields, who does the exact same thing, and in my opinion is a better tool for a narrative than Samus is. And I really believe, call it copium if you will, that this is exactly what the story needs to make Abaddon who he really is to become, lore-wise. It helps way more than the existence of Samus. I find that the reason for Loken to die is to bring Samus to life in some random point in time isn't that helpful. I also find the time traveling aspects of the whole series and 40k in general to be pretty annoying. Now, I understand that Dan Abnett wrote for Doctor Who, I think, and some comics, and granted, he's a pretty decent writer, he's a good writer, in fact, but this fascination with time traveling doesn't really help. And it doesn't help, okay, we understand that chaos is not linear when it comes to time, but for Samus to exist, you don't really need Loken dead. I think that's a bad justification. It helps nobody when you think about it. If we take the action of killing Loken, the most important character in the Horus Heresy, I was about to say the Loken Heresy, and the most important character in the Horus Heresy, and you kill him, you're wounding the fans that like the character for no reason. Much in the same way the death of Nemio was pointless, with bad justification, with the Lion killing him. What's important to note is that the death should serve a purpose. It can be for shock value, indeed, that's Game of Thrones' whole spiel, but it needs to serve a purpose, a larger point. And Loken's death serves a way better point for Abaddon to become the despoiler that he should be, the master of chaos in his 13 Black Crusades, of which 12 were kind of failures and 1 was kind of okay. That's way better storytelling and helps the character develop. Now, granted, it might be this other aspect if somehow we got another part where Loken just gets woke up by Torgadon and Torgadon tells him to tell that story. And he begins. I was there the day Horus slew the Emperor. Now that could work for the death of Loken to be the reason Samus exists. Nevertheless, it's not the story we have. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe, it helps the channel. Arrivederci.